A devoted mother of three, beloved by friends and family alike, disappears without a word one hot summer day.
I said, if she's missing, you're involved in a crime. She would never have left her kids.
What we had learned was that she had been putting herself out there as an adult escort.
A burnt car in an industrial area. The VIN scraped off, seats scorched black, no body. Paige Bergfeld. A devoted mother of three, vanished without a word in June 2004. Her car was torched, her wallet scattered on a highway, her phone went silent. The investigation led to a cadaver dog, searches of a suspect's home, and bags of evidence. But 20 years later, no arrest, no body, no answers. The woman who built her life on secrets left only the hidden part behind, and it wasn't enough to bring her home. But this story begins 3 weeks earlier, on a summer day that seemed ordinary. Paige Bergfeld stood at the edge of a Grand Junction pool on a bright Friday afternoon and told her friend she was afraid something terrible was going to happen. It was June 22nd, 2007, and the Moms Club pool party was in full swing. Children splashed and shrieked in the water. Paige Bergfeld, 35, single mother of three, watched her kids play but couldn't shake the knot in her stomach. She'd spent the last year rebuilding her life after her divorce, running a dance school in downtown Grand Junction, selling nursing slings online, consulting for Pampered Chef. She'd also returned to escort work, something she'd done before marriage, something that paid the bills when dance classes didn't. Barbara Campbell, her friend from the Mums Club, noticed Paige's distraction. They stood together in the shade, away from the other mothers, while their children played. "I'm so afraid something's going to happen now," Paige said quietly. She was talking about Rob Dixon, the client who'd become obsessed, the man who'd driven from Telluride multiple times, who'd given her thousands of dollars, who'd proposed marriage after knowing her only weeks, the man she'd tried to end things with over and over, the man who wouldn't let go. Barbara knew some of it, not all. Paige kept her escort work private, told most people she was just a dance teacher and consultant. But Barbara knew enough to understand the fear in her friend's eyes. "Don't worry about Rob," Barbara said, trying to sound reassuring. "To see you, he'd have to come over Red Mountain Pass, and maybe the mountain will just take care of him." It was the kind of thing you say to comfort a friend, not knowing you'd replay it for the rest of your life. Paige tried to smile at the dark joke. "Maybe I need that to happen," she said. Why didn't someone intervene? Why didn't someone call police, insist Paige get a restraining order, take the threat seriously? These are the questions that haunt cases like this, the moment when prevention was possible, when a woman's fear was audible, when something could have been done. But fear is common. Women express it every day. Friends hear it and offer comfort, dark jokes, reassurance. How do you know which fear is prophecy? The party continued. Paige's children climbed out of the pool, dripping and happy. Andrea, her oldest daughter, was 11 now. The two younger kids wrapped themselves in bright towels. Paige gathered their things, hugged Barbara goodbye, loaded everyone into her silver Honda CR-V. She drove home through Grand Junction's summer heat, past the red rock mesas that gave Colorado's western slope its dramatic beauty. Her little rental house on Chupeta Avenue waited the place she'd made into a home for her kids. The address Rob Dixon knew too well. The weekend stretched ahead. Saturday, Sunday. Ordinary days that should have been filled with normal things, groceries, laundry, maybe a trip to the park. Within a week, Paige Bergfeld would be gone. 4 nights later, at the alehouse downtown, Paige Bergfeld walked into the Mums Club dinner looking gorgeous and carrying something heavy behind her eyes. It was Tuesday, June 26th. The weekend had passed without incident, no visit from Rob Dixon, no terrible thing happening. But 20 mothers gathered around pushed-together tables that night saw what Barbara Campbell had seen at the pool party: beauty masking trouble. Paige arrived late.
She started talking to me about Rob and being very worried.
Hair down, makeup perfect, the kind of stunning that turned heads. But when she smiled at friends, the light didn't reach all the way through. She looked beautiful, but she seemed sad. Barbara would remember. Other mothers at the table noticed too. Paige participated in the dinner conversation, laughed at the right moments, asked about other people's kids. But between the words, Barbara watched her friend and felt worry tighten. There was something in her eyes that was bothering her, one friend said later. I was getting really worried for her, Barbara said. She wanted to pull Paige aside, ask directly what was wrong, revisit the conversation from the pool party. But the evening's rhythm didn't allow for it. Too many people, too much noise, not enough privacy. The moment to reach across the table and insist on truth never came. Sometimes the window to save someone opens and closes in a single dinner. You see the sadness. You feel the worry. You mean to follow up later. Later seems reasonable. Later seems like enough time. The dinner ended. Everyone hugged goodbye in the parking lot. Paige drove home to Chapita Avenue, to her children, to whatever weight she was carrying. 2 days passed. Thursday morning, June 28th. Andrea called her mother. Paige's oldest daughter, 11 years old, had something quick to say before school. I was in a hurry, and I rushed the conversation. Andrea would remember years later. She can't recall now what the hurry was getting ready for school. Some friend waiting, the kind of urgent feeling thing that fills a child's morning. But she remembers her mother's voice clearly. She sounded very happy. She sounded like she was really looking forward to the day. You don't know when you're having the last conversation until it's already over. The sadness from Tuesday night was gone. Paige sounded light, genuinely excited about something ahead. Not forced cheerfulness, hiding fear. Real joy, the kind a daughter hears and believes without question. Andrea kept a call short. She had somewhere to be. Her mother understood. They said goodbye the way they always did. Hindsight. I wish I hadn't rushed it, Andrea said. What changed between Tuesday's sadness and Thursday's happiness? What was Paige looking forward to? The questions have answers now, but that Thursday morning, Andrea hung up, thinking only that her mum sounded good. She had no way to know it was the last time she'd hear her mother's voice. That Thursday afternoon, Paige drove 2 hours east out of Grand Junction, away from her 3 children, towards something that made her voice light again. By the time the sun set that night, her phone would stop ringing. It would never turn back on. While friends saw only a devoted single mother juggling dance schools and pampered chef parties. Paige Bergfeld had quietly rented a second office since March 2006 that almost no one in her family knew existed. Her phone went silent Thursday night. But before anyone knew she was missing, before the search even began, investigators would have to discover who Paige Bergfeld really was. What they learned changed everything they thought they knew about the woman with 3 children and the too perfect smile. What we had learned was that she had been putting herself out there as an adult escort, a detective said later. The office sat in a modest commercial building in Grand Junction, unremarkable from the outside. The landlord who rented it to Paige believed she ran a legitimate acupuncture practice and never had reason to suspect otherwise. She'd even kept a pincushion bristling with needles on display by the door, the perfect camouflage for anyone who glanced inside. The kind of careful detail that made the deception work. The landlord thought that she ran an acupuncture office, investigators confirmed. But other tenants in the building had noticed things that didn't quite add up. Men came and went some evenings, sometimes 4 in a single night. They'd see Paige arriving in skimpy clothes and high heels that didn't suggest healthcare. The hours were wrong, too. Late evenings, not business hours. Still, no one put the full picture together. People see what makes sense to them, and an escort office disguised as acupuncture doesn't make sense until someone tells you that's exactly what you're looking at. Paige had been running this second business for over a year, advertising on naughtynightlife.com under carefully worded profiles. Erotic massage, private dancing, groups, services available for couples. She offered experiences that stayed just inside certain legal lines while crossing others completely. The website connected her to clients across western Colorado. Some drove from hours away. Others were local men who found her profile online and called the number listed. Cash only, discreet, professional. The same instinct for control and appearances that made her a careful mother was the instinct keeping this life invisible. She compartmentalized perfectly. Her mom's club friends saw the dance school owner who sold pampered chef on the side and seemed to manage despite the divorce. They didn't see the woman who left her children with babysitters some evenings and drove to that second office where men with cash came looking for an hour's escape from their own lives. Even her daughter Andrea had no idea. The 11-year-old who'd spoken to her mother Thursday morning, who'd heard genuine happiness in Paige's voice, didn't know about the secret office or the website profiles or the financial desperation driving it all. Paige described herself with particular phrasing in her online advertisements. Not just any escort, something classier, more exclusive, worth the premium rates she charged. Filet mignon as opposed to chopped meat, one investigator read from her profile, quoting her exact words. She called herself filet mignon, not chopped meat. Even here, the profile was Paige's attempt to maintain dignity in desperation. But desperation doesn't arrive on its own. Someone else's catastrophic fall had created the financial hole Paige was trying to fill. Rob Dixon had once driven a lemon-yellow Ferrari through Grand Junction and donated millions to fire departments, making himself the town's most visible hero before losing more than $10 million and becoming its most public disgrace. He was the catastrophe that created Paige's desperation. Rob Dixon, 40, trained paramedic and son of a cell phone industry pioneer, had built himself into Grand Junction's most generous philanthropist before losing everything in catastrophic investment failures. His father had pioneered the cell phone industry and made a fortune. Rob used that inheritance to create the Colorado EMT Foundation in 1996, giving millions to local fire departments across western Colorado. Nancy Lofholm, Denver Post reporter who'd covered Grand Junction for 16 years, documented his transformation from local hero to public disgrace in the pages of Colorado's largest newspaper. Rob at one time had expensive Porsches, Lexus, Jaguars, Range Rovers, a lemon yellow Ferrari, she said. 9 luxury cars. Foundation checks written to firefighters, equipment donations that made him the town's Santa Claus in a paramedic uniform. Rob made sure everyone saw his generosity, driving that yellow Ferrari through downtown like a parade float. Then September 11th, 2001 happened. His investments collapsed, the stock market tanked, the foundation's portfolio evaporated. He lost over $10 million. I would think it was more than that, Nancy said. The luxury cars disappeared one by one. The foundation checks stopped. By 2004, the money was gone completely. But the need to look successful wasn't. Rob started writing checks his accounts couldn't cover. Fire departments discovered the donations they'd counted on were worthless paper. People who beg to be looked at aren't built for the kind of attention that comes with failure. The domestic violence calls started in 2004. 2 911 calls from Paige, terrified, asking for help. Then in 2005, the arrest, Rob shoving Paige while she held their child. The same man who'd given millions to save lives was arrested for threatening violence against his own wife and children. The yellow Ferrari, long gone, replaced by bankruptcy papers. He came to town as a hero and Santa Claus. By the time he left, he was an awful scoundrel, Nancy said. Fire departments began repossessing the equipment he'd donated years earlier. Trucks and gear they'd believed were gifts, now revealed as borrowed time. Taxpayers got stuck covering the foundation's debts. The man who'd arrived in Grand Junction as a savior left as something much darker. By the time Rob declared bankruptcy in 2005, his marriage to Paige was already over. She'd filed for divorce. Desperate to separate herself from the financial crater he'd created. She got custody of their children. He got nothing but creditors and contempt. The escort work Paige had returned to wasn't just survival. It was an attempt to climb out of the hole Rob's collapse had buried her in. His fall had been...
What we had learned was that she had been putting herself out there as an adult escort.
150 volunteers assembled for the largest coordinated search Mesa County had ever seen. Spreading across 3,300 square miles of high desert and mountain meadow in 115-degree heat. The search had grown until it swallowed the entire county. The Abby and Jennifer Recovery Foundation coordinated the effort. Volunteers spread from high mountain passes to Red Rock Canyon country, walking grid patterns through landscapes so vast it made humans look like insects. I think the first day we had in the neighborhood of 150 people. When you're looking at 115 degrees, it is very uncomfortable, an organizer said. Barbara Campbell joined the search, walking miles in heat that shimmered off the desert floor. She'd seen Paige sad at the Moms Club dinner, heard about the burning car, watched hope collapse into certainty. Now she walked in brutal sun, looking for what everyone knew they were searching for. Frank Bergfeld took a different approach. He went downtown to the park where homeless people gathered, carrying a box of water and flyers with his daughter's face. The homeless people who gathered in a downtown Grand Junction park surprised Frank by pulling around him like a magnet when he asked for help, taking every flyer and promising to watch for Paige. I took some of the flyers. I took a box of waters. Those guys pulled around me like a magnet. They took all my flyers, Frank said. The generosity came from people who had nothing, who lived on Grand Junction's streets but understood what a father's desperation looked like. They took the flyers. They looked at Paige's photograph. They promised to watch. The searches continued through July and into August. Volunteers walked in heat that reached 115 degrees, flagging anything that might be related a piece of clothing. Disturbed earth, anything out of place in thousands of acres of wilderness. You had to be prepared that you were trying to find a dead person, and even then you might not find anything at all. Mesa County's terrain was unforgiving. Deep canyons where a body could be hidden forever. Rivers that carried things downstream. Desert that baked evidence into nothing. Mountains with meadows where someone could bury secrets the wilderness would keep. The volunteers found nothing. No clothing, no signs of disturbance, no Paige. Meanwhile, investigators checked Rob Dixon's alibi in Pennsylvania. They verified timestamps, interviewed neighbors. The domestic violence history had made him the obvious first suspect. But the alibi held. Rob had been in Pennsylvania when Paige vanished, time-stamped, verified, unbreakable. At this point, we've never uncovered anything that would suggest that Rob Dixon has anything to do with Paige Bergfeld's disappearance, investigators confirmed. The massive search found nothing, and the man everyone suspected first, Rob Dixon, was formally cleared by an alibi no one could break, leaving investigators with no body, no suspect, and no answers. By August, the searches had combed thousands of acres and found nothing but heat and emptiness. Rob Dixon was cleared, and the physical trail had gone cold. But Paige had left one thing behind that fire and desert couldn't erase. The investigators would turn to the device she'd never let die. Her phone. Weeks into the investigation, with no body and no suspect. Mesa County investigators pulled Paige's phone records, expecting one account, and discovered she'd been carrying 2 phones the entire time. One for her life as a mother, one for the business almost no one knew existed. The device she'd never let die had left 2 complete digital trails. They'd requested records for Paige's known number, the phone Ron had called when she was driving home Thursday night. Standard procedure. The account came back with call logs, text messages, location pings. Then the carrier flagged a second account, registered to the same name. We discovered that there were 2 cell phones, one for her and one for her business, investigators documented. The discovery that Paige had maintained 2 complete phone accounts revealed the careful architecture of her double life, not just hidden work, but duplicate infrastructure designed to keep her worlds permanently separate. One phone for dance classes and pampered chef parties and mom's club dinners. One phone for the men who found her profile on naughtynightlife.com. 2 devices, 2 carriers, 2 complete sets of contacts that never overlapped. Ron had the personal number, Barbara had it. Paige's children could reach that phone. Her father had always called that line. The business phone was something else. Clients only. The escort line kept carefully isolated from everything else in her life. No one in her family had known it existed. We were able to get information from both telephones, the report stated. 2 phones meant 2 sets of records that could be subpoenaed, analyzed, cross-referenced. Every incoming call, every outgoing call, text messages, voicemail, and because cell phones ping towers when they connect, the records showed approximate location for every call. The investigators spread the printouts across a table. Call logs in columns, timestamps, phone numbers, duration. 2 separate accounts telling 2 separate stories that converged into Thursday afternoon. Digital trails survive when physical ones burn, and the phones she'd kept charged for her children would become the map of her last day alive. The car had been destroyed. The wallet items might have been clues or misdirection. The massive searches found nothing, but phone records couldn't be burned or scattered or hidden in desert canyons. Cell phone records and voicemail were a big clue in this investigation, investigators confirmed. The records showed who'd called Paige in her last hours. They showed when she'd answered and when she hadn't. They showed the business phone receiving calls Thursday evening after she should have been home. They showed patterns, numbers that called repeatedly, clients who'd contacted her before. Most importantly, they showed timestamps and tower pings that could be mapped against the drive from Eagle to Grand Junction, against the burned car, against the scattered wallet items. 2 phones meant 2 complete sets of records, every call, every contact, every person who'd wanted to reach Paige Bergfeld in her last 36 hours. The investigators laid the printouts side by side and began mapping backward from Thursday night. What they found would trace her final movements hour by hour. The 2 sets of records created a complete picture of Paige's last 36 hours, laid out in timestamps and cell tower pings, who she talked to, where she was. The exact moment everything stopped. Investigators mapped it hour by hour. Thursday afternoon. The personal phone showed Paige calling Ron to confirm their meeting in Eagle. Andrea called that morning, rushing through the conversation before school. The phone pinged towers heading east from Grand Junction toward the mountains. The business phone told the parallel story. Client calls coming in Thursday afternoon and evening, numbers saved under first names only. Men asking about availability, about rates, about when they could see her. It gives us an idea of who she may have intended to meet with and who perhaps wanted to meet with her, investigators noted. Both phones tracked her meeting Ron at the Eagle picnic area. Both showed the drive-back tower pings marking her progress west toward Grand Junction as evening fell. The personal phone captured Ron's call when he reached Denver, Paige answering while still on the road, agreeing to talk later. Then the business phone started ringing. Multiple calls Thursday evening after she should have been home. Clients who didn't know she had 3 children waiting, who didn't know she kept this phone separate from every other part of her life. We were able to identify individuals and contact them and try to learn their whereabouts, the report stated. Investigators called every number, tracked down every client, built timelines for each person who tried to reach Paige that night. Some had alibis, some didn't. All of them were men her family had never known existed. Contacts hidden behind the careful architecture of 2 phones, 2 lives. Before the records reveal where that separation failed, are you still here? Drop your theory in 1 sentence. What happened between Eagle and home? The next part contains narrative details recreated to convey what investigators discovered. This is where the truth surfaces. The double life Paige built to keep her family from ever knowing became the only complete record of her final day. The hidden phone she was most ashamed of, turning into her last voice. The investigators reading these printouts were the first people to ever see the whole picture at once. Not Ron, who knew about their romance but not the escort business. Not Frank, who knew she had struggles but not how she solved them. Not Barbara, who'd seen sadness but never guessed the secret. Only the detectives saw both phones at the same time, both lives laid bare in timestamps and tower pings. The records place her heading home to Grand Junction that Thursday.
I said, if she's missing, you're involved in a crime. She would never have left her kids.
No arrest has been made, no charges filed. The person responsible has never been held accountable.
Nearly a month after Paige Bergfeld goes missing, investigators name a person of interest. While much of the evidence must be kept secret in case of a trial, the public learns that canines led straight to this man's place of business.
The canines were useful in tying the car to the business. As a result of that, we're left with Lester Ralph Jones as a person of interest in this investigation to us.
For Frank Bergfeld and Paige's 3 children, the absence continues. Not just of Paige herself, but of justice, of closure, of the truth they deserve. Cases like Paige's remind us that some mysteries don't resolve. Some families never get to bury their loved ones. Some questions remain frozen in the moment before proof. The burned car, the cadaver dog's trail, the bags of evidence, all of it led somewhere, but not far enough. Not to the answers a family needs. Not to the justice a victim deserves. If this story moved you, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment sharing your thoughts.
But the investigators would never say what they found there or didn't find.
Do you believe justice will ever come for Paige? Your engagement helps stories like this reach others who care about unsolved cases and the families still waiting for answers. And if you know someone who follows true crime, who believes these stories matter, please share this video. Every share keeps Paige's case in the light. Every view reminds us that she was a real person, a mother, a daughter, a woman who deserves to be remembered as more than just a mystery. Thank you for listening with respect and care. This story is based on a real unsolved case. Some scenes and dialogue have been dramatized for narrative purposes, but the core facts remain true to the documented record. My deepest respect goes to Paige Bergfeld's family and loved ones as they continue to search for answers.